Good morning, fourth graders. Today we're going to be thinking critically about whether a character is believable and authentic. So you all know what characters are, and I think you know that the word believable means able to be believed in, and it just means that we are looking to see, kind of like our last lesson, whether the character acts and behaves in a way that is consistent with the time frame in the story and also what's happening in the story. We can use the word authentic also to say that same thing. If the character is authentic, that means that he or she really does put you in mind of a character or how a real person would act and behave in the time frame that they're in. All right, and thinking critically just means that you don't take everything at face value. You notice what's around you, you read about it, you look at the pictures, and then you think about your own experiences and what you know about life to decide whether the author did a good job with his or her characters. So let's start with the Junkyard Wonders. And I'm going to read you a few pages, and I want you to notice the things that Trisha says and how she acts, and think about whether you know anybody in life who would think or act the same way as she does in this story. So I'm going to start on page 7 and just read a few pages here. At recess that day, I couldn't wait to ask Tom, "Why is our class called the Junkyard?" "Because we are, didn't you notice? All of us are different, you know, odd, like stuff in a junkyard." He turned toward the playground. "See that super tall kid over there? That's Jody Beach. He's got some disease that makes him grow too fast. He's my bodyguard. No one picks on me when he's around." He smiled. "Over there, that kid, that's Gibby McDonald. He has Tourette's. There's Stuart Bean. He has diabetes. Me? Well, I have trouble seeing. They call me Sissy Boy, because even so, I love ballet. It's my life. I take ballet too. At least I did in California." "I knew there was something about you I liked," Tom said. I felt I had found a soulmate in Tom, and since he thought Jody was nifty, so did I. But it only helped a little. When I got home that night, I told Dad and Grandma about my day. I tried to be brave and not let them know how sad I really was. But just as Dad was tucking me in at bedtime, I finally burst into tears. "Oh, Daddy, I've been put in a special class again. It's called the Junkyard." "Junkyard? What junkyard?" my dad asked. "That's what everybody calls our class." "Darlin'," my dad said, "you are not a quitter. Stick it out for a month. If the class doesn't get better, I promise I'll send you back to California." I didn't tell him that when I tried to sit with Kay and her friends at lunch, she said that junkyard kids couldn't sit at their table. The next day, Mrs. Peterson arrived in class with a basket full of small glass bottles. "Today," she said, "we are going to determine your tribes." She gave us each a vial. "Tip some of the liquid on your wrist." Smell? Some of you smell like lemons, some cinnamon, some almonds. Now, can you smell someone who has the same scent as you? They will be part of your tribe for the year. I sniffed my own wrist. Vanilla. We all strolled around the classroom, sniffing each other's wrists. I sniffed a boy's wrist who was wearing a homespun shirt, and he sniffed mine. "Vanilla," we both said. "My name's Gilbert McDonald. Call me Gibby." Then the two of us fanned out. I found a girl who smelled like vanilla. "Looks like you're in my tribe," I chirped. She just smiled, but didn't answer me. Gibby came over with Tom. "Vanilla," he announced. "My bodyguard Jody is too." So Tom, Gibby, Jody, and I were a tribe. I asked the shy girl her name. She wrote it down on a piece of paper. Ravan Sauls. Tom told me later that she hadn't spoken as long as he had known her. All right, so as I read and you looked at the pictures, did it remind you of anyone? Was Trisha an authentic character? Did she act like a girl her age in a new school might act? I think she did. She was curious to know some people. She asked questions about why their class had that nickname. When she went home at night, she tried to be brave, but she ended up crying when she was safe with her dad. So she had some sadness and some curiosity and some fear. I think she was a very authentic character, very believable. Let's take a look at another book. You'll remember The Bicycle Man by Alan Say. So this book takes place right after World War II in Japan. And as we go through this story, again, I want you to think about a little boy. If I remember right, he was only like 5 in this story, and it's their school's version of our field day. So see if he is an authentic character. Does he act like someone you know would in this situation? The winners went up to the judges' table and received prizes from the principal. The prizes were wrapped in white paper and tied with gold threads. Inside, there were oranges and rice cakes and pencils. By the time the 6th graders finished running, it was lunchtime, and that was the best part of the sports day. My mother had cooked for 2 days, preparing the good things to eat. The layers of lacquered boxes held pickled melon rinds and egg rolls, spiced rice, and fish cakes. There were apples and peaches and sweets of all sorts. In the afternoon, we had the tug-of-war and piggyback races. After that, the grown-ups had a race of their own. Parents and teachers paired up and tied their ankles together with headbands and hopped around the oval. We screamed with delight when they stumbled and fell on top of one another. We were cheering Mrs. Morita and someone's father when a hush fell on the playground. We stopped moving and talking and stared toward the gate. 2 strangers were leaning over the fence and watching us. They were American soldiers. One of them was a white man with bright hair like fire, and the other man had a face as black as the earth. They wore dark uniforms with neckties, soft caps on their heads, and red stripes on their sleeves. They had no guns. "Look how black he is. Look at that red hair," we whispered. The war had been over for only a short while, not even 1 year. American soldiers had a base in the harbor, but we had never seen them in our mountain. I felt afraid. The foreigners smiled and waved at us. When the black man cleared the fence and came toward us, we all drew back and stared. He was the tallest man I had ever seen. And his clothes, such sharp creases, and his shoes shone like polished metal. The soldier walked in huge strides toward the school entrance where the principal's bicycle stood. He pointed at the bicycle and turned to the judges' table. The principal stood up slowly. "He wants the bicycle," someone said. "Maybe he doesn't know what it is." "No, he wants to ride it." All right. So, the things that the kids say to each other. First of all, I think they're all excited. I think we all get excited on field day. And then everybody always looks forward to lunch. I know that I have seen boxes like these at Japanese restaurants, so I think that's authentic. I know from other books and movies that I've watched that they do sit on mats on the floor, and they take off their shoes. They're using chopsticks there. He's very excited, says lunch is the best part of the day, and I think it's always fun to have Mom and Dad come to school for a special event and share lunch with us. And then the events, everybody has a good time. We always kind of laugh when the grown-ups fall down. And then they see the soldiers. I think that would be kind of scary. The soldiers, the Americans, were the enemies of the Japanese in World War II. Now the war is over, but it's still probably kind of scary for them to see American soldiers, and then they whisper to each other. I think kids do that. Look how black he is. Look at the red hair. Notice that all the kids in Japan have really dark hair. So they're noticing what's different about them. And then when the soldier comes over, even the principal stands up slowly, like the principal is a little nervous too. I think he's wondering, what does this guy want at my school with all these little kids? So I think that the games they play, the way the kids act and the adults, I think it's all very authentic to the time and the place that the author was using for his setting. So again, as you're reading today, pay attention to the setting, what the characters do and say, how they dress. Decide, think about it critically. So you can't just assume that the author knows what they're talking about. So you need to think critically to decide if you think those characters are believable, if you think they are authentic, and is that something you could picture someone you know doing or saying? And just notice those things as you're reading. So again, like the last couple of lessons, if you notice something in your books, put a post-it note in there and be ready to come back and share with the class the text evidence that you find that supports your opinion of whether the characters are authentic.